Hey guys, Luke here on Sean's channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys my Snake-Eyes Fire King deck. Beforehand, I brought you Snake-Eyes Fire King Azamina, but honestly the Azamina stuff just wasn't really working out for me, so I decided to kind of go a little bit back to basics and just try my best with the Snake-Eyes Fire King. And you know what, I actually think it's pretty good because there's a little bit more of a clear bridge between them. Now that Sinful Spoiled Snake-Eye card was banned completely, it was getting a lot harder to kind of bridge these two, but there are ways to go about it now, and I do think that it gelled together really well. So without further ado, let's just get into this Snake-Eyes Fire King build. We're going to start things off, one copy of Sacred Fire King Garunix. So for those of you who don't know, the Fire Kings basically all have a gimmick where they get effects when they're destroyed, and also they have effects to try to destroy each other. So for example, Sacred Fire King Garunix has the effect that if a monster that was originally fire is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand or your graveyard, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in your hand at the time it was destroyed. So it's very, very good at bringing itself out, and then when it's brought out, what you're able to do is you're able to destroy one Fire King monster in your hand or your deck, and then what Garunix does is he gains attack equal to half that monster's attack. That's pretty good for an attack stat boost, but honestly mostly use that for the effect that we're going to get off the monster we destroyed, because as I said, Fire Kings gain effects based on them being destroyed. So I definitely think Sacred Fire King Garunix is a very good card, but you don't need to run it any more than one copy, mostly because it's very easy for it to recycle itself and get out onto the field from grave. So I don't think any more than one copy is necessary. Now we run one copy of Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Honestly, he's a bit of a brick, but the main reason we run him is because we run 3 copies of Ulcanix in this deck, and you need this card specifically in order to get the full effect of Ulcanix. So genuinely, you only need to run him at 1. I wouldn't run him at any more. We run 3 copies of Fire King High Avatar Kirin. Kirin is very good. It's a level 8 monster that is able to bring itself out during the main phase with its own quick effect. You can destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face on the field, and if you do, you can special summon this card. The fact that it's a quick effect is very good because it means that we're able to bring it out during our opponent's turn, which can end up being a very big surprise because what we're able to do is kind of cheat out our way to our Eternity Garunix using our Fire King Sanctuary, but we'll get into that a little bit later. That's not all Kirin can do. It also has another graveyard effect that when it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special one Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard, except for Fire King High Avatar Garunix, then you can destroy one card in the field. And that's a non-targeting bit of destruction, so of course that is very, very good. I definitely like to maximize my copies of Kirin. We run 3 copies of Fire King Courtier Ulcanix. Ulcanix is a very good normal summon in this deck. That and Ponix are the 2 best Fire King normal summons that you can get, so I like to maximize my copies of Ulcanix. If it's normal or special summons, you can throw one other fire monster in your hand or face on the field, and if you do, you can add one Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand, except for Ulcanix, which is just absolutely great, because what that means is Ulcanix is able to destroy a monster, you're able to add your Sacred Fire King Garunix, and then Garunix is able to special summon itself out. And if Ulcanix destroyed a level 8 monster, Ulcanix goes up to level 8, and then when Sacred Fire King Garunix hits the field, that gives you 2 level 8 monsters, so you're able to go for some XYZ plays. So it's definitely ideal for going into the Zombie Vampire or something like that. But that's not all this card does. It also has the effect that if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Fire King High Avatar Garunix from your deck in defense position. So obviously that's why you need to run the 1 copy of Fire King High Avatar Garunix. It's just very necessary in order to get the full effect of Ulcanix, which I highly recommend you run at 3 copies. We run 1 copy of Fire King Avatar Arvata. Arvata is pretty decent, but honestly I wouldn't really waste a normal summon on him unless if we were really stuck and our backs against the wall. But I do like the fact that he has a monster effect negate, because when a monster effect is activated while this monster is on the field, you're able to quick effect negate the activation, and if you do, destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face on the field, which is just great. It's always good to have some form of monster effect negation on the field, and Arvata is a good way to do that. But that's not all. It also has a similar effect to Kirin in the sense that if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Fire Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster in your graveyard, except for Arvata, and then you can special summon it onto the field but negates effects and then destroy it during the end phase. So obviously not as good as Kirin because it doesn't get a pop, but it's a good way for us to get more bodies out onto the field. So I definitely recommend you guys run it at 1 copy. We run 1 copy of Fire King Avatar Kirin. This is one of the OGs. Honestly, we mostly just use this as a bridge to get into our Snake-Eyes side of the deck if needs be, because it has the effect that if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can send one fire monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it's just a great way to get the Snake-Eye monsters into the grave, so we're able to cheat them back out onto the field, and then go for some Snake-Eyes plays from there. Obviously, it's not as good a bridge as what we used to get, but still, desperate times calls for desperate measures. I still think one copy is more than enough. We run one copy of Legendary Fire King Ponix. Ponix is a great starter. I don't think it's as good as Ulcanix when you're starting out, but Ponix is still very good because on normal or special summon, Ponix is able to add you a Fire King spell / trap from your deck to your hand. So it's a very good way of you to search your Sanctuary or even your Skyburn depending on the game state, which is absolutely great, but also has a nice little bit of a recovery effect in the sense that if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, during the next standby phase, you're able to add it from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a good way of keeping up hand advantage as well. So Ponix is definitely very good for that. He's probably the second best normal summon out of all the Fire King engine in this build. So I definitely like to run it at only one copy. Going into the Snake-Eyes side of things now, one copy of Snake-Eyes Flamberge Dragon. Flamberge has the effect that you can target one face-up monster on the field or in either graveyard, and you're able to place it face-up in its owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. So Snake-Eyes are very different from Fire King, but they do have very good synergy because they both use fire monsters. So that's the reason why they gel so well together. But where Fire King get most of their effects from them being destroyed, Snake-Eyes gain their effects by being turned into continuous spells on the field, and then you can use their other effects to send themselves and those continuous spells in order to get their full effects. So Flamberge is very good for that because it's able to put monsters into its owner's spell and trap card zones, so you're able to maintain field advantage. Because Flamberge also has the effect that during your opponent's turn, you're able to quick effect tear one monster card, treat it as a continuous spell on the field, and then you're able to special summon it out. A lot of people are using this effect with the likes of IP Masquerena. They go through their plays, building up and link climbing. They'd use IP, go into Promethean Princess, have IP in the graveyard, then they'd use their Flamberge to put that IP into their spell and trap card zone. Then during their opponent's turn, they'd use Flamberge effect, get IP on the field, and then you're able to use IP's effect to go into some crazy plays from there. So it's definitely really good for that. But that's not all. Flamberge also has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard, you're able to special summon 2 level 1 fire monsters from your graveyard. So it's a good way for us to recycle the likes of our Snake-Eye Ash, Oak, or Poplar if needs be. You don't need to run any more than one copy of Flamberge Dragon. We also run one copy of Snake-Eyes Diabellstar. Honestly, this is probably the best target for when we're activating Divine Temple of the Snake-Eye. Just because when we activate Divine Temple of Snake-Eye, it allows us to put a Snake-Eyes monster from our deck face up into its spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. And Diabellstar is a great target for that because it's able to easily special summon itself out from the spell and trap card zone by targeting one other fire monster in the graveyard and putting that in the spell and trap card zone to special summon Snake-Eyes Diabellstar onto the field. So it's definitely a great way of extending, getting more bodies onto the field, but also has a neat battle trick if you ever need it. But honestly, the main reason why you want to run him is just because he's a level 8, so it's able to go for some of your rank plays as well. So I definitely recommend you guys run a one copy in this deck. In terms of the smaller Snake-Eye monsters, we run 2 copies of Snake-Eye Poplar, 2 copies of Snake-Eye Ash, and 1 copy of Snake-Eye Oak. So Ash and Oak are very similar in the sense that they both have a very similar effect where if they're face on the field, you're able to send it and one other card from the field to the graveyard to special summon their Snake-Eye monster out onto the field. So it's a very easy way for you to get into your Flamberge. But they both have different effects when they're normal summoned. So for example, Snake-Eye Ash has the effect that if it's normal or special summoned, you can add 1 level 1 fire monster from your deck to your hand. Whereas Snake-Eye Oak has the effect if it's normal or special summoned, you can target one of your level 1 fire monsters as banished or in the graveyard and either add to your hand or special summon it. Poplar is great, especially goes hand in hand with the like Snake-Eye Ash because Snake-Eye Ash, as you know, has the effect that it adds it from deck to the hand, and when Poplar is added from deck to the hand, it's able to special summon itself out. Which is fantastic because when Poplar is special summoned, you're able to search your deck for 1 Snake-Eyes spell or trap card and add it to your hand. So it's a good way for us to get into the field spell or even Sinful Spoil Snake-Eye or something like that. Not only that, Poplar also has the effect that when it's sent to the graveyard, you're able to target 1 fire monster in your graveyard and place it face up on its owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. So it's fantastic to keep up field advantage as well. I think this is definitely the ideal ratio to be running these cards. Of course, Poplar is semi-limited and so is Snake-Eye Ash, so you can only run them in 2 copies. But Oak, I don't think you need to be running any more than 1 as well. I might just breeze through these hand traps. 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird, and 3 copies of Effect Veiler. You can swap them out depending on the matchup. It really doesn't matter. But the main reason I like to run these cards specifically is just because they are probably the most common hand traps that you'd find in this format. And we also like to run 1 copy of Crossout Designator, so it's important to have not only very good hand traps, but also very good hand trap targets for the crossout. So I definitely recommend you guys run these at this ratio. Going into spells now, we run 3 Fire King spells, 1 copy of Fire King Sanctuary, 1 copy of Fire King Island, and 1 copy of Fire King Skyburn. Sanctuary is definitely my favorite because when this card is activated, you can place 1 Fire King Island from the deck face up into the field zone. So it's just all around great advantage from there for next to no cost. And Sanctuary also has 2 other great effects. One being that once per turn, if a card in your field zone be destroyed by card effect, you can destroy 1 fire monster in your hand or face on the field instead. So not only is that a great way to protect our island, who has a drawback effect that if it is sent to the graveyard, you have to destroy all monsters that you control. But also the fact that we're destroying fire monsters is very good for the Fire Kings because, as you guys already know, Fire Kings gain effects based on if they're destroyed. But that's not all Sanctuary does. Sanctuary also has a very good effect that once per turn, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can immediately after this effect resolves, XZ summon 1 fire XZ monster using only Fire King monsters that you control. So obviously that's a good way for you to go into your Garunix Eternity during your opponent's turn, which is an instant board wipe during your opponent's turn, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Fire King Island is also very great because it has 2 very powerful effects. We can only use one or the other during the turn. The first effect is during your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster in your hand or field, and if you do, add 1 Fire King monster from your deck to your hand, which is great. Not only are we getting advantage from the pop, but also the fact that it's hand advantage as well by adding. You can't go wrong with it. Its secondary effect isn't as good, almost never comes up really. It's just that if you control no monsters, you can special summon 1 Fire Winged Beast monster from your hand. Most of the time, the only good target with that will be your Sacred Fire King Garunix. But even still, it's way easier to bring them out the alternative ways. So we mostly use Fire King Island for that popping and adding effect. Last Fire King spell is Fire King Skyburn. Target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, destroy them. Just a great popping quick play spell. Definitely can't go wrong with a little bit of searchable removal because we're able to add this off of Ponix. But it also has the effect that if a Fire King card or cards will be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead, as a nice little substitution. So Skyburn is just absolutely great at offering pops and protection. I definitely think you guys should run 1 of each of these cards. Going on to the Snake-Eye spells and honorary Snake-Eye spell in Bonfire. We run 1 copy of Bonfire, 1 copy of Sinful Subversion Snake-Eye, and 1 copy of Divine Temple of Snake-Eye. Bonfire is a Rhoda for Pyro monsters. So of course your Pyro monster that you want to be searching off a Bonfire next to all the time would be Ash, just because it is the best normal summon when you're going into your Snake-Eyes side of things. Simple Spoils Subversion Snake-Eye. It's just a nice little removal card that I really like, just because it's not a destruction card. What it actually does is you can target 1 face-up monster on the field and you're able to place it face-up in its owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. I think that's a nice little bit of removal, and it's great because it's searchable off of Poplar as well. And if we're able to get a very powerful monster opponent controls into their spell and trap card zone, and we're able to pop off with Flamberge, what we might be able to do with Flamberge during your opponent's turn is you might be able to steal that monster onto your field for yourself. So I definitely think it's still worth the run. And finally, Divine Temple of the Snake-Eye. When this card is activated, you can place 1 Snake-Eyes monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in its owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. It's definitely ideal for Snake-Eyes Diabellstar. I definitely think it's really great for that. But also has an effect that once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster card onto the field, you can target 1 monster card on the field, treat it as a continuous spell, and then you can special summon it to your field, which I think is definitely very, very good. So I would recommend you guys run 1 of each of these in the deck. We have a couple of limited staples here that kind of don't need any explanation. 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent, fantastic card. 1 copy of 1 for 1. 1 for 1 is great for getting us our Ponix or even our Snake-Eyes side of the deck. One copy of Cross-Out Designator. Again, we run a lot of very common hand traps as well, so it's good to have Cross-Out Designator for that, especially for hand traps that are going to be so dominant into format. And also one copy of Call by the Grave. This is a combo deck at the end of the day, so we want our combos to actually pop off. So one copy of each of these cards is definitely essential to run in the deck. And finally, rounding us off, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Fantastic hand trap, very common as well, so it's a good cross-out target too. Going to the extra deck now, 1 copy of Snake-Eyes Doom Dragon. I really like this card because you're able to special summon it by sending 2 face-up monster cards from your spell and trap card zone to the graveyard in order to bring them out. Which is very easy for us to do because we do run a lot of Snake-Eyes monsters able to get monsters in the spell and trap card zone. And then also, if the card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field and then you can place it in its owner's spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. I can't stress enough how good it is that you're able to get some form of removal by placing monsters in the spell and trap card zone. It's definitely just a lot better than destroying them straight up because it's harder for your opponent to play around that. The rank 8s we run in this build are Garunix Eternity, the Zombie Vampire, and number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. Photon Lord is great because it is a monster effect negate, so you can't go wrong with that. It's definitely really good to have if you're going first. Not only because it's a good monster negate for during your opponent's turn, but also if there's a chance of you getting interrupted, number 90 is able to put a stop to it. The Zombie Vampire is great as well because it has the effect that you can mill the top 4 cards of your deck in your opponent's deck, and if a monster is milled from among those cards, you're able to special summon it onto your field. So this is great because pretty much 99% of the time when you're going for your rank 8s, you're going into them using your Fire King cards, such as your Garunix and your High Avatar Garunix as well. So this is another little bridge that we can get if we so happen to be lucky enough that we're able to mill a Snake-Eyes monster such as Ash or something like that, then that gives us direct access into our Snake-Eyes side of the deck. But also it's very good because it gives us a little small sneak peek of what our opponent is playing as well. So I definitely recommend running the Zombie Vampire too. Garunix Eternity is a great Xyz monster because we're able to go into it during our opponent's turn if we have Fire King Sanctuary up, and as I've already mentioned, when Garunix Eternity is special summoned onto the field, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. So if we're doing that during your opponent's turn, it's just an instant board wipe. I definitely think it's worth running in the deck. The rest of the cards are all links now, and all of them are pretty generic, so I might just breeze through them real quick. 1 copy of Relinquished Anima. Honestly, I would much rather prefer if Linkuriboh was still a card, but unfortunately it is banned, so Anima is kind of more so just a replacement for Linkuriboh. What you mostly want to use this for is if you have Poplar on the field, you're able to link off Poplar for Anima. Poplar will go to the graveyard and you're able to use Poplar effect to bring it back onto the field, so you're maintaining field advantage by keeping an extra body on the field and also having Poplar in your back row. So Anima is essential to run 1 copy. We run 1 copy of IP Masquerade, 1 copy of SP Little Knight. You guys already know what these cards do. Honestly, I say now is the format to be playing it because I genuinely think IP Masquerade might be on the chopping block for the next ban list. I just have a bit of a hunch, so you might as well play it while you can. So 1 copy of each of those. We run 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix is not only good because it's a form of spell and trap card removal, which this deck does seriously lack in, but also the fact that it's a fire means that its attribute can come up quite a bit as well if needs be, so I definitely recommend you guys run that 1 copy. We also run 1 copy of Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. Sunlight Wolf is here mostly just because if we get a little bit stuck and need some of our resources back from the graveyard, if a monster is no more special summoned to the zones that this card points to, you can add 1 fire monster from your graveyard to your hand, so it's a good bit of recovery. But for the rest of this turn, you cannot normal summon / set or special summon a monster with that item monster's name. So it's good recovery, but you need to be careful about that because you can't necessarily just add it back to your hand then use that effect the same in that turn. So Sunlight Wolf is good if we're kind of in a bit of a long game and we know we have a few turns to spare. 1 copy of Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze. If we get interrupted very early by an Ash and we're able to go for a Link 2, what we're able to do is we're able to link into Hita, use Hita's effect, steal that Ash from our opponent onto our field, then we're able to go for our Link 3 plays. So Hita's definitely very important for that. Mostly because it allows us the opportunity to climb up into our Promethean Princess, Restorer of Flames. This is an insane card, it's really good. When it's on the field, you are locked into special summoning fire monsters, but that's absolutely fine. Pretty much half the deck is fire monsters, if not more. It has two very powerful effects, one being that during the main phase you can special summon one fire monster from your graveyard, which is a good way for us to keep going with our plays, but also it's a great way for us to climb up again into a Link 4, which we'll get into in a little bit. But also, if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field while its card is in the graveyard, you're able to target one fire monster you control and one monster that your opponent controls, and you can destroy them both. And then if you do, you're able to special summon this card. So Promethean Princess in the graveyard is a nice little bit of a disruption as well. So I definitely recommend you guys run that one copy. Two cards you're able to link climb into Alpha Promethean Princess is definitely Salamangreat, Great Raging Phoenix, and Amblewill. Raging Phoenix is probably the better option if you're going for an OTK, and Amblewill is good if you're going first and then you kind of want to play the long game with some more disruptions. But it honestly just depends on what point you are in the game that you'll make a better judgment call for that. There is a very good OTK line with Raging Phoenix when you're pairing it with World Sea Dragons Atlantis, which is another Link 4 that we run in this build. So I definitely recommend you guys run these cards at that ratio. Then the final card of the extra deck is Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. We don't have a lot of good removal for unaffected monsters. So we have removal in terms of destruction and removal in terms of sending monsters to the back row. However, there are a lot of boss monsters that are just unaffected by everything. So I want to have some form of kaiju in the deck, but I didn't really want to necessarily main deck a kaiju. And I'm really tight in the side deck for kaijus. So I found that this would be the best way around it. It's a Link 5 monsters, but you're also able to use one monster your opponent controls as material for its Link summon. So you need 4 of your own effect monsters, and then you can use one monster your opponent controls. So it's just a great way of getting rid of some problematic monsters. It can take a little bit of setup, but honestly I do think it's worth it, especially with some of the more modern decks that are out there. For example, the new Draco Tail is going to be running Dragoon, which is one hell of a card to try and out. So I think Underworld Goddess of the Closed World might be the best way for us to go against the likes of that. And we're going to go into the side deck now. Honestly, nothing new. 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. Malice is definitely not going to be the best deck in the format, but it's definitely going to be a very high contender. If it's not going to be S tier, it's definitely going to be A tier. So 3 copies of Lancia I think is definitely very good at interrupting them. 3 copies of DD Crow I also recommend, just because I think DD Crow is good at definitely really wrecking up decks like Blue Eyes. I prefer running DD Crow over Bestials just because Bestials need to target specifically light or dark monsters, whereas DD Crow can target any card at all in your opponent's graveyard. It doesn't necessarily need to be a monster. So I definitely think it's really good for that. We also run 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. I know Yummy is definitely going to be a big contender in the coming format, and in order to break their board you need some massive board breakers. So Dark Ruler No More is definitely one of the better ones to go against Yummy, so I definitely recommend you guys run 3 copies in the side for that. It'll definitely pair very well with 3 copies of Evenly Matched, because if you are able to use Dark Ruler No More and then negate all of their face-up monsters, you're able to go into battle phase and then go to end the battle phase, activate Evenly Matched, and then it's just a very easy board wipe from there. So the game should be way easier for you to win from that point. And then finally, wrapping us off is 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn cards are still as crazy today as they were when they're first printed. Timeless counter traps. I always like to see them every format. And as of right now, I think Strike is my favorite, so I definitely recommend you guys running it at 3 in the side. So that about does it for the deck. Please let me know what you guys think. I'm really happy with the way this deck turned out. I don't think this is going to be the best deck going into the coming formats. Of course, this is Yu-Gi-Oh, so they're power prep just a little bit. Few hits on the ban list, so it's not going to be the best deck anymore. But it still has some very high potential, so I do think that this build is a lot of fun if you guys want to try and test it out. If you guys want to build this deck in real life, if you guys can consider using the affiliate links down in the description, it would really help myself and Sean out, because if you use those affiliate links, it helps direct support the channel. Another way for you guys to support the channel is if you guys would consider becoming a channel member. We want to give a big shout out to our channel members, of course, Kirin Thompson, Ronnie L, Master Jojo TCG, John Cran, Vex, and Lizard. We really appreciate your continued support, so thank you very much for that. Sean and I definitely appreciate it. For the rest of you, if you can consider just liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment, it all really helps us out in the long run. So until next time, I hope you give this deck a try, and let us know how you get on. Thanks for watching.